Josh, I'm having you on NYBERG because I love what you're trying to do. You're trying to save the world, you're trying to change the world through a book, through marinara sauce, but other ways. So I want to tell folks why it is that you want to change things for the better. How did you get started? You're going to have to go back a ways.
A long ways. I think I could sum it up by saying I got lucky. I'm a kid that was adopted into a great family who believed in creativity and imagination and excellent education, and kept in touch with the foster family who had me, they were a big joyous family. And every single step of the way through my childhood, it was all about celebrating good things and being creative and using your imagination and moving forward. And I got to feeling really lucky for so long that it just was kind of ingrained in me that you've got to share that good luck.
But most people, dare I say some people, aren't as gracious as that. What made you different to say, I'm going to do some really cool things. I'm going to make a difference in the world as you were growing up and going to college and beyond?
I was inspired by a lot of people, great teachers, great schools, my parents, but I also think that reading and great books and great kids literature was the first thing that kind of kicked me into that. You can imagine a lot of things. You can imagine your world being great and big and bright and beautiful, and all you have to do is a little hard work to get there. And I was supported in so many ways along the way that it made it easy for me to believe in those dreams.
What was the moment that you said to yourself, I can change people's lives? When you saw people that were hurting, what was that moment?
That was a little later. That was back in the late 90s when a good friend of mine, Marge, and her husband Bernie, they lost their son who was 13 years old. And in response to the pain of that and that tragedy and trying to bring the community together and all his friends, they created a teen center in West Haven, Connecticut. And it was called Jeff's Place. And I volunteered, thinking I'd be there a couple of hours a week and help kids with papers and just kind of schmooze and mentor kids. And I ended up being there 4 days a week, hours at a time, falling in love with hundreds and hundreds of kids, and realizing that there were tons of kids out there with a lot of potential who didn't have the $65 for the application fee for college, or they didn't have anything but a Snickers bar waiting for them at home for dinner. So they were going to not be able to study because of headaches and lack of nutrition. And I just wanted to help. And I knew that all it took was a little bit of a helping hand for all of their potential to come to light. And that was really the first moment that I said I need to build something real that can sustain itself, that can help people like this.
Jobs that you've had in your lives that have led up to what you're doing now, and we'll talk about what you're doing now, which is a ton of stuff, but what are all the jobs and the steps that led up to who Josh Chalmers is right now?
You know, I wish I could say it was not a lot of stuff. I kicked in my work career as when I dreamt up the notion that I could be a caterer. After a friend said, hey, you cook a really good dinner, how about doing my daughter's wedding? And I thought, yeah, that's great. And then I kind of fibbed my way into a job in marketing at a hotel just so I could learn the ropes and kind of grew it from there. But it was my catering company and starting my own thing that really was the first major job that I had.
You reached out because I will call you a dreamer. Can I say that?
Yes, please.
And you're making things, yes, yes, please. And you're making things happen. So you reached out to other right-brainers, creative types,
yep.
And you started to network and connect and help each other. How soon after that did something called Earth 2, and it was something else before Earth 2, but there was this place that you dreamed up, and tell folks what this place consists of that someday you want built somewhere. What does it look like? Paint the picture for me, because we don't have a picture of it.
I have pictures on cocktail napkins. I have pictures now in renderings and architect things, and it's grown in a lot of different ways. But the dream really was to create a place of arts and culture and education and retail and hospitality and entertainment that had for-profit tenants that would have to match up with compatible nonprofit partners, so that every for-profit element of this great big real estate development would drive revenue towards needy nonprofits.
And what does it look like? I know there's this fantastic tree house in there.
Yes, there's a 5-story treehouse with Victorian house all split up into it, and everybody needs to know this is just pictures, so this is all just in my mind right now. We haven't put a shovel in the ground anywhere, but it's in the works. And it's kind of what I call Willy Wonka meets Alice in Wonderland meets proper real estate development.
And all sustainable.
All sustainable, also very eco-conscious. When we first pitched this, we went right away to all the nonprofit partners and also to the EPA and GE Ecomagination and talked to them about how to make this kind of a living laboratory for being green and building unique and fun properties in
What's it
eco-conscious
going
ways.
to take to get a shovel in the ground on this?
Finding the right property, and there's a little, thing about raising
Politics.
a ton of money. And well, we've gone through a lot of the political stuff, and we've learned a lot of lessons. And I have a strong advisory board of about 60 people, but we were very cautious about not hiring anybody and not sitting in a fancy office somewhere and pretending it was real before it was real. And we pitched the redevelopment plan for Governor's Island as a test run in New York in 2006. And that was the thing that really made it feel like people were responding as if it was real. And we were one of the shortlisted groups that people were interested in. We made a lot of friends. And through that project, we raised up to $3 billion from one consortium. And unfortunately, they never developed the island, and it was contingent on us winning the island.
So what's the next step now? At one point, you were talking to Chicago, perhaps, about a piece of this.
We were talking about breaking it
imaginary
up.
place,
Exactly.
yeah.
We have things like Cool Campus, which is a unique education neighborhood. We have the Animal Care and Education Treehouse. We have a kind of a funky magnet school that's based on eco-consciousness. We have Brain Candy, which is an interactive play space. We have the Great American Playground. We have all sorts of things that can be on their own great destinations.
Does the state of Connecticut know all about this? And if they don't, how do they get a hold of you to build these parts around the state of Connecticut?
Well, we have to find a great property that has good highway access and all sorts of little basic things like that. But I've tried looking around Connecticut and I haven't had a lot of great luck. So
how do they get a hold of you?
NYBERG will spread the word.
Exactly. So, well, that's my point. So earth2company.com, they can find Josh Chalmers there, correct?
They can find Josh Chalmers there, right.
So we want to build this place, so that'll be
Right.
great.
And that place is called Arcadia, which is our real estate development plan.
All right, so it's all set to go. We just need
all
a
set to
shovel
go.
in the ground and somebody to go, I love this, and
Exactly
let's
right.
build it. Okay, so in the background here, we have a book and we have some sauce. Let's start with the book. I've known you for a bit now. And Change the World Before Bedtime is just an awesome line. What does that mean and where did it come from?
It's my personal and professional mission statement, and probably about 10 years ago, which would have been the time when I was starting to volunteer at that teen center, even a little bit longer, that I just started feeling like changing the world better than save the world, because I don't believe in the heroics of it. I believe that it's everybody's responsibility and it should be habit to be kind to your neighbors and to help out and to donate in your community. And
People are going to listen to you and go, this person isn't real. You're not a real person, because nobody wants to just give, and make the world a better place.
Well, and part of my point is that I think people get panicked that it has to always be about giving money, and it really isn't. And so for me, it's always been about the easiest thing to give, which is time and energy and a little bit of kindness and love and the skills that you've nurtured in yourself, which are easy to share. So
This book. What happens?
I wanted to bring, as you understand, sometimes you can talk a lot about big dreams, but they don't. If there's nothing tangible about it, it's hard to keep the momentum going. So
Sure.
I wanted some real things, products, and this book. And I remember back to when I was about 8 years old, reading Charlie and the Chocolate Factory under a tree when my parents had a house on Leeds Island, and I wanted to write a children's book. And so it just took another 40 years to figure it out. But I partnered with Mark Kimball Moulton and Karen Hillard Good, and we created this based on the mission statement, Change the World Before Bedtime. And it's just a simple, sweet book about all the things young kids can do to give back, share their toys, be kind.
It's a great learning tool
It
for
is.
any teacher
It is.
to read. This is grade, what, 1 through 3 or 4?
Pre-K up through about 4th grade, they're
Okay.
saying, yeah.
And knowing you like I do, it's not just going to be a book.
No.
What else is happening?
Well, we
with
actually
Change
took-
the World Before Bedtime.
We took, one of our projects is called Outrageous, where we go into schools and do creative hands-on work. And we took some ideas about this into a school, and by the time we left, the teachers and I were talking about creating a board game that they could use as a teaching tool within the classroom. And that kind of filtered into kids having ideas about how they could do their own versions of Changing the World Before Bedtime books. And, so it's kind of exciting. There's even a place in the book where kids should write their ideas. And the
I see in the back.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love writing.
So this should be a Broadway play, probably, at some point.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So now we've got the book. We have the sauce. Tell me about the sauce and where is it made and all of that.
Okay, it's a very local product. It was when I had a catering company, which was that first job. I created a sauce for a wine festival, and I don't like the taste of alcohol or wine, so I couldn't taste the wine to figure it out. So all I saw was there was some black currant in it. So I made a sauce with currants and mandarin oranges and figs and onion and basil and all sorts of cool things, and it was a huge hit. And we had restaurants coming to us trying to buy an exclusive on the recipe. And so 10 years later, I thought, well, we need a cool product, so let's get cracking. And I found Ultimate Foods, which is here in New Haven, and they'll run an all-natural line. We wanted it to be as natural as possible, and you can see that it's 6 ingredients. Very healthy, all natural. There's no added chemicals. There's no water. There's none of the things that thin out most of the sauces.
All part of Earth 2 Company.
All part of this is the Earth 2 Edibles division, which just launched this year. And this is the first philanthropic product, and each product, as long as it's on the shelves, will be matched with one partner beneficiary. And for this one, we chose Share Our Strength.
So everything is giving back, which in turn gives back, which in turn gives back,
Right.
which is your whole mantra.
It is. There's a rule that every 4-product element of Earth 2 has to have a compatible nonprofit partner.
Who else thinks like you?
I think, honestly, there are a lot of people out there. I get lucky. I get to meet a lot of these folks who are really world changers, but they're quiet and shy about it, or they're building their things behind the scenes. And it's hard off the top of my head, but from New York to Boston, I've been meeting amazing people of all ages who are trying to do this kind of change the world stuff.
You've also done work for Life is Good. Tell me about that.
When I was developing the pitch for Governor's Island, I thought it would be an awesome idea to have Life is Good as part of our Governor's Island development. Met them cold, and they were just about the most awesome guys. And about a year later, they invited me to join their board. And about a year after that, they invited me to become president of the board of their Life is Good Kids Foundation, which was their tool for taking their brand and their culture of optimism and bringing it into the community to do good work for kids.
So people listening to this are exhausted because they're thinking, well, you do so much good. It's starting to work now. It's starting to work. So 5 years down the road, where's Earth 2? Do we have a shovel in the ground?
Yes, I'm hoping actually, this is being recorded, so I'm going to have to hold myself to this, but I'm hoping that within a year we're going to be able to say the name of the property and get a shovel on the ground. We're looking at enough great sites now, and we have our partners circling again. So I'd like to see Arcadia being built. And by that point, I would say that in 5 years, we could be opening up Arcadia.
And I hope it's in Connecticut.
And yes, or that would be, one of the simultaneous branches that we're building.
Right, so you're always thinking big. Well, I hope people listening to you are inspired to do great things, whether it's in the classroom or in their house or wherever, because I happen to think like you do, that
Yes,
the
you do.
power is at the grassroots level and that people connect and network and really good things can happen in some really tough times right now.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
So Josh, thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.